Welcome to Regionally Speaking, a forum that explores the distinctive aspects of Northeast Ohio's Western Reserve. And now, introducing your host, Professor of American Studies and the Director of the Western Reserve Studies Symposium at Case Western Reserve University, Gladys Haddad.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Regionally Speaking. Cities across the country are facing the worst recession since the Great Depression. How do you redevelop a city in these challenging economic times? In this series on the Social Justice Alliance Institute at Case Western Reserve University, we'll be joined by community experts and leaders, faculty and students, as we discuss these important issues for Northeastern Ohio and its central city of Cleveland. Hello and welcome to Regionally Speaking and this series on the Social Justice Institute at Case Western Reserve University. A few blocks east of University Circle is the municipality of East Cleveland. Our focus today is on the East Cleveland Collaborative Project, and the subject is housing. Our conversation today includes the following. Anthony Houston, a member of the East Cleveland Mayor's Cabinet, Program Manager for the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. Fannie Hall, a longtime resident of the city of East Cleveland. Mansell Baker, Assistant to the Chief of Staff in the Mayor's Office in East Cleveland, and a longtime resident of East Cleveland. Not quite as long as Fannie Hall, but then that's what you're going to be hearing about. Anthony Houston, please talk about your job description. That is your responsibilities as Program Manager of the Neighborhood Stabilization Program.
Good morning. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. My responsibilities as Program Manager of a Neighborhood Stabilization Program, I manage and operate alongside three other staff a HUD, a Department of Housing and Urban Development program, where the city of East Cleveland received initially $2.2 million to demolish 150 dilapidated structures and rehab 4. That's NSP 1. We successfully received additional grant monies for NSP 2 as part of our work with the county, city of Lakewood, Garfield Heights, Cleveland Heights, and Shaker. We'll get a cut of the $40 million, and we are recently recipients of NSP 3 funding, which totals another $1,068,000, focused on demolition, rehab, and resale of vacant structures for potential sale and home ownership.
Mm-hmm. How long have you had this position?
It's actually going on 2 years now. I came in January 2009.
Mm-hmm. We want to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute, but I want now to go to Fannie Hall. Fannie Hall, here you are, a long-time resident of East Cleveland. What's a long time? How many years?
49.
49 years. And have you lived in the same residence?
The same resident.
Tell us about it. What's it like and where is it?
Well, it's now it's on the corner of Del Mountain and 125 Street. I've lived there when it was the houses and everything was beautiful. Right beside of me was 2 apartment buildings and 1 single home. And I enjoyed it because the people upkeep was very good, and we all was taking care of a property, and the streets was tremendous. The street pliers, we had no problems. Everything was good. Uh-huh. But down the years, things have decreased and looked bad, but now things began to look up. With the demolitions they are doing there. We really appreciate that.
And that's the work that Anthony Houston is doing.
Right,
mm-hmm.
Yes.
And have you lived in the same house?
In the same house,
uh-huh.
Yes.
And All right. Well, now, Mansell Baker, as assistant to the chief of staff in the mayor's office in East Cleveland, you also are a long-time resident, just not quite as long as Fannie Hall, but tell us about your own history living in East Cleveland.
Living in East Cleveland, and thank you for having me. Living in East Cleveland has been somewhat of a roller coaster ride for me. I resided in a time where East Cleveland was at a neutral point, and then I resided at a time in East Cleveland where we had some struggles. But now I am fortunate enough to be a part of the new revitalization and the new focus that East Cleveland has at this point with the new mayor, Gary Norton. And we definitely are on the move, and we're definitely going somewhere in this new direction. Mm-hmm. So I'm enjoying myself as I take part in the new direction and also live in the new direction.
Uh-huh. And what are your responsibilities?
My responsibilities in the mayor's office are external communications, internal communications, and also youth services. I also partner with Anthony Houston on economic development projects, and we are responsible for complaints and resolution of problems that may come through the office internally and externally.
Uh-huh. And how do they find you?
I'm able to be found. I'm able to be found through our website. I also maintain the website also, the information technology piece of the mayor's office. I'm able to be found through my email, through the phone line, through the website, word of mouth, and also our community events. So community affairs is somewhat my specialty also.
Uh-huh. And my question is, how did the mayor find you to give you this very significant position?
The mayor and I met in 2004, and at that time he was running for city council. And I said, hey, why don't you let me volunteer for you? And he said, sure. So I volunteered that one time, and I said, hey, you're a pretty bright person. I look up to you as a young person at that time. And I said, you look like you would have a shot at being mayor. And when you run for mayor, I'll promise to come back and help you. So while off to college, I recently graduated 2 years ago, and I heard that he was going to run for mayor. And so from Dayton, I came, and I moved back to East Cleveland to help him run for mayor. And we ran a successful campaign. I served as his assistant campaign manager. And when he was elected, I was given a position in the chief of staff's office.
Wow, that's a success story, isn't it?
Yes. Right.
And it looks to me as though you're enjoying it very much.
It is a great experience for me and a learning tool.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, Anthony, what do you think about having this young man in this position?
I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I think the sun rises and sets in Mansell. I think he has a tremendous potential. He's done a lot already, and he's eager to learn in terms of, as he had mentioned, getting involved in the potential that we have in terms of economic development initiatives, potential projects, and it's great to work with him.
Good. Now, how much contact, Fannie Hall, do you have with these folks?
A lot.
Oh, tell us about it.
They even know my voice. I have that much contact. I call them whatever I see that I don't like. I call them and let them know. They can't say that they didn't know because I let them know. I don't wait for anyone to do this. I ask them to do it. I do it.
And what kinds of things do you call them about?
I call them on structures that I see, things that I see like people dumping garbage in our lots that's vacant. I call them about the streets, street lights. I call them about anything. If there's a police needed, I'll call them. Dogs barking, I'll call the police. Fire department, I'll call them.
And what about the response time?
They always listen. I do not have any trouble out of not any of them.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to just you've given us an excellent case study on how this works, but I'd like to have each one of you just give us an example of the kinds of things, following up on what Fannie Hall just said. How do you deal with these problems? Each one presented to you, and then how do you proceed?
Particularly in terms of the housing issues.
Yes.
I mean, as probably your radio audience may know, East Cleveland at one time had over 40,000 people. Right now, potential census maybe 19 to 22,000. So we have excess of seriously dilapidated, aged old homes that have been standing for over 20 years. So particularly with reference to the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, dealing with structures that have been standing for years and years, that are deteriorated and that are health danger to the community, danger to children, danger to families, that had needed to come down. And those are the types of not only the complaints that we get, but those are, with the money that we have, we're addressing those issues in terms of bringing those structures down, clearing the land, and providing opportunities for potential families for us to build new housing in the area. Mm-hmm. So we deal with everything from initial code concerns and declaring a structure a public nuisance to actually bringing the structure down and clearing the land and securing the property.
So you get word from somebody like Fannie Hall. She says there's a house. It's always vacated. The house has been vacated, and then you move.
Right, as part of the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. This program, which is an Obama program, is focused on areas. A lot of cities in the state of Ohio receive funding. It's a federal program, and the Neighborhood Stabilization Program is focused on a particular census tract, 1517, which is Lakeview, Woodlawn, Delmont, Elberon, Wadena, Howard, about the first 6 or 7 streets within the city of East Cleveland. And the NSP program is focused on the worst dilapidated structures in the neighborhood. And the focus is to clear them out, to stop the blight where it is, where it doesn't advance, and to begin next step to answer the question, what comes next after we demo structures? Mm-hmm. And at the same time planning to do some rehab.
Mm-hmm. Mansell, I'm going to move to you with this question. I remember hearing Gary Norton talk about this and how exciting it was to secure the funding that Anthony is talking about. Do you know the background about that whole story of how that all came about?
Well, at this point, I can speak briefly on it, very vaguely. East Cleveland for some time has not been at the helm of receiving money such as this. And I think that in this particular time, in this particular season in East Cleveland, this money could go a long way. Considering as though our general fund does not have the weight, so to speak, to support revitalization and development within the city, whereas some cities with increased revenues and high property taxes that may contribute to their general fund may be able to help them improve their standard of life. I think that now at this point, East Cleveland stands to benefit from the NSP dollars from our President of the United States, and also, a talented individual such as Mr. Houston to facilitate those funds can direct them to the areas of most need. And I think our residents in particular, Ms. Hall, are fortunate enough to see these actions, the actions of these dollars come into play. She is very vigilant, and whereas these monies are out there making change, she is definitely keeping the mayor's office abreast to concerns that need to be addressed immediately.
Good. We're going to take a break now. When we come back, we're going to get some of these, what we call case studies. We're going to hear about it from Fannie Hall, and the two of you can just chime in and tell us what you did about it. We'll be back in just a minute.
Regionally Speaking is made possible through the generous support of the Social Justice Alliance Institute, the Case Western Reserve University Advanced Opportunity Grants, and the Case Western Reserve University Center for Community Partnerships. To learn more about the issues facing our region, visit our website at blog.case.edu/WRSS.
Well, we're back again, and during the break, I had the privilege of asking Fannie Hall if she would give us her life story in terms of Cleveland, where she lived, and what brought her to East Cleveland. Tell us about it, would you, Fannie Hall?
East Cleveland seemed to be a nice, quiet, well-kept neighborhood. I liked it very much because I was brought up that way. Wherever I lived, I wanted to look like home. And East Cleveland always looked like home until I'll say the last 15 years, 15 to 20 years, things started decreasing. And it got to a point, I said, what can we do? It's time to make a start. And with the generation that we have in now, they are making a start for me. And I'm glad to see the people that we have in is interested in the city, concerned, and not the kind that's going to wait and look and talk. They are doing the work, and I appreciate it very much.
Your decision, though, to move to East Cleveland, tell us about that.
Because it was a nice, quiet city. Mm-hmm. We had police protection. You never had to worry about to call one. The streets was well kept. The neighborhood was well kept. And I wanted a nice place to live. Mm-hmm. And my son didn't go to school here, but it was a nice school and everything. I always talked about Shaw and Kurt because they were outstanding. And I appreciated that.
Uh-huh. Well, Mansell and Anthony, what are the two of you doing to, secure the dream that was what brought Fannie Hall to East Cleveland? What are you doing to bring that dream again come true?
Oh, well, I believe that we are taking the approach to safeguard, so to speak, the jewels that we have here today, our recreational facilities, our parks. We are partnering with the school district to improve, certain services and communications that, we share within one another. Our, what I would say of some of our communications relative to our cable network, Channel 9, we're trying to get information out to our residents. Complaints, we handle them immediately. Streets, we're working with community development and our Department of Urban Development to put forth dollars to improve our living sectors. There are many things relative to youth services that we're facilitating, and overall, just trying to be a friendly neighbor to our residents, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely would follow up. I agree with what Mansell said. And one of the things that Mayor Norton has allowed us in terms of to capitalize on are a couple of different assets. The assets of location. I mean, we're probably the only inner ring suburb that has available, developable land from Lakeview and Euclid to, say, the border of Euclid and Belvoir. Land for development, for housing, for business development. We capitalize on the assets of the people, the assets that we have in the park. And something that the mayor likes to say all the time is that there's no red tape. I spent 4 years with the city of Cleveland, 2 years with Mayor Campbell, 2 years with Frank Jackson. There are huge departments there, departments of development and economic development. There's no red tape in the city of East Cleveland. If there's a potential or developable project or particular people have ideas on transitional housing or an ex-offender program, they schedule an appointment to meet with the mayor, alongside Mansell, myself, or other members of his team, and that's it. There's a Department of Building and Housing. You go to the Department of Building and Housing. There's immense assets, and we're able now to capitalize on those assets and the relationships. And folks know that when the mayor and we come to the table, that we're competent, we're serious, and we're open for development and workforce opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Well, the kinds of responses that you're describing suggest to me that size has something to do with it. I mean, if you're dealing with the city of Cleveland, that's, there's more bureaucratic aspects to, I think, the operation. But your operation sounds like there's a lot of interaction among the members on staff and the department heads. This is what I'm hearing.
Yes, we have monthly weekly cabinet meetings. We have monthly town hall meetings, and there are a number of community organizations that hold meetings to inform the public of different changes that are happening throughout the city. The mayor has a direct approach when dealing with this community. He likes to approach things hands-on. He likes for his staff to be hands-on, and that's particularly our direction at this point.
Yes.
So when Miss Hall calls me, as she has several times, Mr. Houston, I need you to come over here. There's some dumping or there's construction. I'm able to pop in the car, get in the car, and 3 minutes away, I'm on the street, or service department's on the street, taking care of the concern or whatever we need to resolve.
Mm-hmm. And you've given us some of those examples of how that happens.
Yes.
That you get an immediate response to the numbers of kinds of things that you witness. So you're a very important person in this community. I'm so glad you're here to tell us about it.
I just think that I live here, and if it's need be, I have to call.
Mm-hmm. Fannie, how do you explain what happened in East Cleveland? What do you think?
Well, I think what happened, we had people in there was not concerned about their job or what needed to be done. It wasn't serious. They just had a job, and that was it. If I do it today or next year, it should be okay when it needed to be done now. I think that's what happened. We can't put off today for tomorrow, if it's need be.
But and this is a question for all three of you. How do you account for the changes that have taken place in East Cleveland over time? Now you're dealing with the situation as it is now, but East Cleveland changed over time. Tell us about that. And Sal, do you have a view on that?
At a particular point, East Cleveland in the early 90s had a high population of drug activity and gang violence. That contributed heavily to the flight of residents, which led to a decrease in our population. We also dealt with the disenfranchisement of what the administrations at that particular time dealt, their leadership style. We also had an issue along the lines of residential conduct, so to speak. So the renters or homeowners' respect of their own particular property was also a concern. Whereas, in some areas they would respect their property, keep it well kept, and our housing department was a hard-working housing department that kept up on codes and things of that nature. Whereas now we have some serious lack in those particular areas. So we're just really trying to readdress the focus, and I think the mayor's direction is very, very crucial to that revitalization.
Yes,
Anthony?
and definitely, I would agree with that, and I would also say that with the loss of population and other, East Cleveland's a microcosm of a lot of the other smaller cities and larger cities in terms of the lack of serious, in terms of the disinvestment financial and economic disinvestment, huge loss of population, which in turn spirals in terms of issues of crime, issues of poverty, and issues in terms of discordant leadership throughout the decades. It's a microcosm of what we see in some of the larger cities, Philadelphia and Detroit, other areas. That's what we've seen, and what we see now, we're poised for immense collaborations. You know, at one point, we're inviting people. I mean, I remember I had a quick story. I had a tour of the senior vice president for real estate for university hospitals. He had worked he still's at the hospital for about 15 to 20 years. Hadn't been to East Cleveland in 20 years. I gave him a tour, got in the car, gave him a tour, and gave him all of East Cleveland. And he was amazed and he was excited that no one had invited him. So one of the first things that the mayor did back in February of last year, if we remember it, we had a casino type bus filled to capacity. I think it was the hottest ticket, and that was when LeBron was here, and you couldn't get it. People wanted tickets for it and couldn't get it. So those types of things that hadn't been done before,
yes,
in terms of inviting people to East Cleveland and saying, hey, we're poised, we're ready, we're inviting you to not only just invest in us, but partner with us on a new future. And it's great that it's tremendous that residents like Ms. Hall, who've seen it all and continue to be here, also is able to see part of in terms of the revitalization of things moving forward.
Uh-huh. So, Fannie?
Yes.
Is the dream coming true?
Yes. I'm very proud to say yes.
Yes. In all the ways?
In all the ways.
Uh-huh. Tell us about
And I will say that absentee landlords causing a lot because they are not concerned. They don't have to look at it, live with it. And if we could get more people to consider their property is a place where I live, and to beautify that makes me feel good. So I'm hoping to see more, and I will keep pushing, and I have no problem with them because they listen.
Well, you have instilled in all of us a great deal of hope. Mansell, what do you think?
It's truly an honor to witness such residents as Ms. Hall. She is an inspirational individual, and she does keep us on our toes. And unlike Ms. Hall, there are many others within the city that are very vigilant. We are experiencing now a reinvestment, so to speak, of our residents that have been here a long time. They sort of have a fed-up mentality with some of the things that they've seen. And so in order to be a part of instead of being a part of the problem, they want to be a part of the solution now. So they are very adamant about giving feedback to this administration. We have a community newsletter that keeps them well informed. Like Mr. Houston stated, we're very direct. When we get a call, oftentimes Mr. Houston and I will jump in the car and we'll go directly to that location to address that call hands-on. I mean, that's the direct approach that I think our residents deserve. And as the mayor continues on in his leadership, I think that this will prove beneficial to him in the long run.
I thank you, all three.
Thank you.
Fannie Hall,
Thank you for having
Anthony
us.
Houston,
Thank
and Mansell Baker. I join with you in thinking there is a very bright future
Thank
for
you.
East Cleveland.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
You've been listening to Regionally Speaking, a forum that explores the distinctive aspects of Northeast Ohio. Today's program is made possible through the generous support of the Social Justice Alliance Institute, the Case Western Reserve University Advanced Opportunity Grants, and the Case Western Reserve University Center for Community Partnerships. To learn more about the issues facing our region, visit our website at blog.case.edu/WRRS. You can also email your comments, questions, and suggestions to regionallyspeaking@case.edu.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to join us next time for Regionally Speaking.